my 31st trip to Africa. I've been coming here about 45 years. And I just want to say this to you and still be loved. We are running out of time. You will never change that which you tolerate, and you will only change when you get angry. Africans are not angry. We are not angry enough. So until we get angry, nothing's going to change. Now, what do I mean by that? I do not sense from Africans throughout the diaspora a sense of urgency. I don't sense a sense of urgency. We're running out of time. We must act now. I said act, not speak. Act. We know what we're supposed to do. We know how to do it. We have the intellectual and human capital to do it. We just don't have the sense of urgency. We must act now.
I'm going to speak as a banker, and bankers, we do very sparse words. We don't use a lot of words. We say we'll use dollars instead. If it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. So I'm going to speak of 8 things, and each one will grow in practicality. Each thing will grow in terms of solutions, my contribution to this august body. The first one, of course, is we must ratify the acceptance of the 6th district, of course, and I want to commend Nigeria, and I want to encourage every one of the African nations that they too should create a bureau for the diaspora within each country, one that looks out for the whole. It's a good idea. Of course, reparations has to be spoken about in terms of these things.
What we are hearing here is a powerful challenge, not just to leaders, but to all Africans and the diaspora. The speaker is not calling for chaos. He is calling for urgency, discipline, and organized action. His message is simple. Awareness alone is not enough. Change requires movement, strategy, and sustained commitment.
Carry the bill in New York State for New York State to do reparations. We don't have to wait until some giant country moves. We should start where we are. We should start in state by state until these people understand that we are serious. The third thing that I want to speak of, and without my glasses, my friends, it's rough. The third thing that I want to speak of is the need for a African-American think tank. There are just too many good ideas coming up here, and that there needs to be a place of collecting it, a place of focusing it, a place of taking it and taking it further, a place that works it and brings it to you in a form that is ready for you to deal with. There is a need for a think tank, one that doesn't just speak of what's going on in Africa, but what's going on in America, or the Americas, let's do this right. And we need to get some of our best minds together, some of the best people that money can't buy, and have them come into a room and think of some further steps. We also need to, and I guess this has more to do with the African Americans here, we need to rebuild an organization, TransAfrica. There has to be a lobbying organization for Africa. Just as our brothers, the Jews, have several lobbying organizations for Israel, and our brothers, the Chinese, everyone has. We need to have an organization that, under the guidance of the African countries, can say, here are the issues that we want to fight for, and start organizing the Africans in America to start putting pressure on their governments so that when you come there, you at least get an open door instead of the runaround that we get, the royal runaround where you ultimately meet with the guy in charge of the copying machine instead of a decision maker. We need to have someone who says that you can't have these people just run in circles, that they're going to have to be treated seriously. Another, and now let's go even more granular, things that we can do in here. We need to speak of south-south trade. We need to speak of how the diaspora and Africa can trade with each other. You've heard the figures of the monies that we have. Why aren't you getting part of that? If you could just get a 1/10 of that, it would do amazing things. We need to speak of south-south trade. We need to, this is a day and age of computers. Why don't we have a list of what are the mega projects that the African governments are doing where we could bid on? Why don't you have a list of the mega projects that we know of that you can bid on? Why is that? This is computerization. This is not the hardest thing. Why must you forever use the same old boy network of England, France, Germany, and other fine people, I'm sure, when you can use your own? And why are we so naturally...
This idea of an African diaspora think tank is extremely important. If ideas remain scattered, they rarely become policy or real projects. A structured platform could turn conversations into plans and plans into measurable results.
Thinking of the same folk who brought us to America, and we want to give them that money. There's a type of insanity here. We should fight against this. We should have faith in one another. You can do some of these projects. We can do some of these projects. The battles of fighting, and yes, we have to do those larger things, but why don't we start by feeding our families today? And I give you one example of this, and I invite you to it. In my district, I have John Fitzgerald Kennedy Airport, JFK. You've been there. That's my district. They're rebuilding that airport. They're putting in, they say, they started at $13 billion US. It's going to go to 22 before it's finished. They say 30% of it can come to so-called minorities. 30% of $22 billion. Now, I'm not good at math, but that sounds like a lot of money to me. Why don't we work together? Why don't we find your businesses that can do some of these things? When it's in America, why isn't it a majority-owned partnership? Americans, 51%. Black Americans, mind you. When it's in Africa, it should be an African majority business corporation. Why aren't we thinking in this matter? This is, my friend, there's money on the table now. I'm not speaking of things to come. I'm speaking of if you know businesses that can do these things, do not let me out of this door.
And Mr. Senator, if I may just add
Please.
to that very point, even if the businesses are not necessarily in the specific line of work that is being provided. Maybe there could be investors with black-owned U.S. businesses that is in that line of work. And the U.S. government is so structured that for every $500,000 invested by most African countries, you get 5 to 10 green cards. For your family, they don't have to live in America, but now your daughter can go to college and you don't have to go through any struggle. You could travel almost any place in Europe with a U.S. green card and you never have to join lines to get visas every time you travel. That's what the rest of the world is doing.
What he is raising here about South-South trade is very serious. Africa and its diaspora move billions of dollars, yet too much of that wealth leaves the black world. His argument is not emotional, it is economic. Cooperation creates opportunity.
I just want to add that point as I know you're wrapping up, Senator.
Yes, I am. Very worthy point, sir. I took the liberty of saying when we speak of TransAfrica, we need to be speaking to U.S. aid, the United States Agency for International Development. We want real aid coming to Africa without these strings. We want the aid at the level that they give Israel. They don't seem to be giving Israel strings. Why are we giving Africa strings? Why are we saying, oh, you can only do this and only do that? No. Cut those strings and act as if you were Israel. Now, I didn't say that. I should say that
This point about investment, access, and collective benefit is critical. Development cannot only enrich a small elite, it must reach ordinary people. Real progress is measured by schools, water, healthcare, and livelihoods, not just profit.
Interested on a personal level in collectives, my friends. I'm not personally interested in filling the pockets of an individual. I'm not interested in having other people drive big cars around the rest of us. Can we find ways of getting this money to real people? Can we find ways of not just the inner elites, but the rest of us eat? So if you come to me, A, come speaking of what collective that you have, or B, come making a promise that 10% of your profits will go back to the African people that you have here. Have your profits, 10% of it, go to working on schools, on water, on health. Have 10%. That shouldn't be a lot.
Whether you agree with every point or not, this speech challenges us to think seriously about unity, economics, and action. Africa does not need anger. It needs organization, strategy, and cooperation. If this discussion moved you, share it so more people can reflect on Africa's future.